Hello, hello. I just watched Prisoners, the 2013 film directed by Denis Villeneuve, and I want to talk about it because, man, was this a fucking movie, dude. Oh my God. Denis Villeneuve has always been one of my favorite directors. He's top two at the very least. Might be top one, tied with like PTA. I've always loved his movies for always feeling larger than life, and that's not just from the way it looks, but also from the characters' perspectives too. Like something about the way the characters are written and the way the characters interact in the environments that they're put in Denis movies always feel like the characters are actively witnessing a spectacle. And maybe that's just because of the performances, because I think across all of Denis movies, the casting and the acting is always top tier, and we'll get into that a little later. But even when it isn't sci-fi, and mind you, Prisoners is the first Denis movie I've watched that isn't sci-fi. Before this, I've watched Blade Runner, Dune, and Dune 2, which are all three movies I absolutely love, one of which is one of my favorite movies of all time, Dune 2. That's like a top 5 movie for me. This movie isn't sci-fi, right? Prisoners is a thriller. It's a story about child abduction where these two families, their youngest kids get abducted, and it's up to this detective to figure out where they went. And we dive into the actions and psyche of that detective, as well as Keller, the main character of the movie, who is one of the fathers of the kids. And this movie isn't sci-fi, yet I still feel that larger than life, that spectacular, that monumental epicness from this movie, even though it isn't an epic like on paper, right? And I think that's really cool. That's really awesome. And I only feel that from Denis movies. And for what it's worth, this movie doesn't even look super spectacular. I mean, it looks brilliant. Like, it's spectacular in the sense that it's good, but it doesn't look like a spectacle. It's not very flashy. It's not very gaudy. You know what I mean? The cinematography is very bleak. The movie is shot very, I guess, statically. Like, there aren't any whip pans or like crazy camera movements. And I think that is intentional. And I think that lends itself to the grounded nature of the story of this movie. And it makes the overall film feel a lot more authentic, because the plot of this movie is not super fantastical. You know, this is a real thing that could happen in the real world. And the cinematography lends itself to that. And the editing lends itself to that. Like, it isn't like Scott Pilgrim or anything like that, you know. It's probably the polar opposite to that, you know. It's just cuts, and like there isn't like we're just cutting from one scene to the next, right? And that sets a very bare bones tone to the movie, which makes these characters' experiences feel a lot more authentic, and it feels a lot more relatable in a weird way, because like let's be real, a lot of the things these characters do in this movie pretty fucking sick and twisted, you know. Not a single character in this movie I'd say is like 100% morally sound person, which is amazing. My favorite thing in stories is moral ambiguity. All of my favorite media of all time have one thing in common, and it's that the main character or the ensemble cast of characters, all of them are generally morally gray. And that always introduces a whole other facet of conversation and discussion and internal discourse surrounding the characterization of a certain character. It's always super fun to like root for a character you know you shouldn't be rooting for, or root for a character that you think is good, but then you realize as you're watching, like, hey, maybe this guy's a little off their rocker. I love that. And this movie is chock full of characters like that. You know, we have Keller, the main character of the movie, played by Hugh Jackman, who is amazing in this movie. I know I said I'll talk about performances a little later, but just be patient, okay? Keller is an extremely troubled man who commits a lot of heinous actions out of desperation of finding his lost daughter, which, you know, obviously is really understandable, but also a lot of things he does are like, holy shit, like, let's think about this before we do this. And then we have Detective Loki, who is probably the most good person in this movie, at least out of the main characters, but he's a violent guy. He's not afraid to lay a finger on you if you're naughty or if he thinks you're naughty. And yeah, there's just a bunch of characters like that, and it sort of lends itself to the movie title, right? When I was watching this movie, I was like, why is this called Prisoners? And there are reasons why this movie is called Prisoners, which I'll talk about in the spoiler section. But these are all characters that do feel, in a sense, trapped in some sort of trauma or turmoil, right? And that is conveyed so brilliantly because of the performances. I told you I'd get to it. Because by golly, great googly moogly, this movie is full of amazing, incredible, balls to the wall, phenomenal performances. This is by far my favorite part of the movie. Hugh Jackman kills it. Kills it in this movie. This is the best performance I've seen from Hugh, I think, ever. And that includes like Logan. I love him in Logan. I love that movie so much, but he knocks it out of the park in this movie as Keller. It's probably one of my favorite performances I've seen in recent memory, at least out of the movies I've watched this year. I might even say he's like top 20 of all time, like favorite performances I've ever seen in a film. Like he really captivated me every time he was on screen, and he conveyed that desperation, that anger, that conviction so well in every fucking scene, man. I loved him so much in this movie. And I mean, Jake Gyllenhaal too. Like I need to watch more Jake Gyllenhaal movies, man. I always hear lots of movies where he's the main character brought up in like GOAT movie conversations, right? Like Enemy, Nightcrawler, Zodiac, Prisoners, Brokeback Mountain, and I've out of all those movies, I've only seen Prisoners as of yesterday. So I gotta start jaking more. Whoa, I gotta start Gyllenhaaling more. And I mean, if I get to watch more movies with Jake Gyllenhaal and that fucking luscious slickback, man, I mean, I'm sad. Like my hands are firmly clasping on my armrest, like I'm twirling my hair and kicking my feet. Like, yeah, I didn't know who else was in this movie, so watching this movie was like listening to like hidden features on an album or something. Like I didn't know how many names are in this movie. Like fucking Viola Davis is in this movie. Dylan Wallows is in this movie. My goat Paul Dano is in this movie, who plays Alex Jones, no relation. Fucking Terrence Howard is in this movie, and all of the performances of the people I just listed, all of the performances in this movie in general. David Dastmalchian is in this movie, and everyone gives 110%, man. Even Terrence Howard, Dr. Howard, philosopher extraordinaire, even his performance was so captivating and incredible. I loved him in this movie. His character, I believe Birch was his name. He offers such a necessary sort of conflicted perspective where he's, you know, not necessarily egging Keller on in his actions, but he understands why Keller is doing this, is not doing anything in his power to stop him. And even gets to a point later in the movie where Viola Davis's character, she's like, oh, let's let him do the things he's doing. And, you know, we didn't know any of this happened starting today. And that's such a cool perspective to add to this movie, and it's a very human perspective, you know. And I love how all of these characters interact and react to each other's actions and just the general plot of the movie, which I love, man. Generally, every actor was on their S game in this movie. Like, this movie needs to be studied in like drama or acting classes, man. It's so good. Another thing that I love about this movie is the pacing. I think this movie is a masterclass in pacing. I didn't expect it to be as much of a mystery movie as it was. You know, it feels like a murder mystery sometimes, or an abduction mystery at sometimes. The way the script is written and the way the shots are blocked, like, introduce little tidbits of information, whether it's through dialogue or through camera work, that slowly build towards this massive puzzle that your brain is piecing together as you're watching this movie. And the way the movie is edited, the important stuff almost like jump out at you. Like the stuff that the movie wants you to take note of just like screams in your face. And this is a very subtle movie, and I don't know how it does that. I feel like the editing gives you enough time to like soak certain shots in, certain shots that include an important item that a character picks up or a character is looking at. It gives you enough time to soak that shit in. And like when a certain character says something important, the other actor in the scene will pause for a moment or give the movie like a second of breathing time, just enough time for you to clock what they just said and be like, oh my God, this goes here and this goes there, and oh my God, what is happening? This movie is not predictable either. Like, this movie kept winding and twisting and turning, and it does kind of ebb and flow for the first like 2 acts, but it ebbs and flows in such a engaging way. Like, I never felt bored watching this movie, despite the movie really only picking up the pace in like the third leg. It never feels meandering. No time is wasted. Like I said, the editing is very simple and it's just shot after shot after shot. And there's no like filler shots. You know what I mean? There's wide shots that look beautiful and you're just engrossed in the just stunning cinematography of the snow and the rain. But when two characters are interacting and when a character does something, is always necessary to this ever growing mystery of where the fuck did these kids go. And once you find out, and that one twist, man, there's that one twist with that character that happens at the third leg of the movie that's just like the ending too, man. I remember like soy jacking at the ending of that movie, man, where the movie left off. It leaves off at like the perfect note, man. I cannot see that movie ending any better way. I also love the themes of this movie. I think I really resonate with the themes of this movie. You know, grief does make you do the darndest things. And I think another thing that this movie delves into is spirituality, you know, as a person who thinks a lot about my faith and thinks a lot about my departure from my faith as I've grown as a person. And I think about like the afterlife and our purpose on this planet and stuff like that. Like I was raised in an environment where I had to look towards faith for those answers. But as I've grown and as I've educated myself, I questioned a lot of these things. And I finally made decisions in my life to separate myself from those things only very recently. And I'm still very scared of like hell and stuff. And I don't want to get too much into that. But this movie tackles humans and their complicated relationship with God and with religion, you know, whether it's Detective Loki, whether it's Keller. I mean, this movie starts off with the Lord's Prayer and it sort of has this really beautiful full circle moment at the end as well. There's a certain character who talks about they're waging war with God that has to do with grief and loss and the way all of these themes intertwine and explain the motives behind these characters doing these things. There's something so beautiful about that, man. I guess I'm tiptoeing around spoilers here, but the taking advantage of a mentally challenged / troubled person too, like I can resonate with that. Not as the taker, but the takee. I've definitely been in situations as a neurodivergent person where I felt like I've been manipulated or used for someone else's gain and didn't realize until way later in my life. I can really resonate to that with like a character like Alex, who is probably neurodivergent, let's be real, you know, and so I can really resonate with that. I mean, like I can't even think of like critiques for this movie, man. Like I guess like maybe the score was a bit bland. Like I don't think this movie really utilizes music, and not that movies have to utilize music, but this movie doesn't really use music like that, you know what I mean? And I went back and listened to the score as I was writing notes for this video, and it's not like a really like special score. I mean, it's good and it elevates the scenes that utilize it in the movie, but like outside of that, like it's just kind of a movie score, you know what I mean? So there's that. And I guess I'll talk about my favorite moments in the movie. Spoiler warning, I guess, from this point onwards to the end. But my favorite moments in this movie, I loved the shots when Alex was inside of that makeshift prison that Keller makes at his old house, where his eye is peeking out of the box, of the little hole in the box. Ugh, the sunlight piercing through that hole and revealing Alex's damaged eye and face is just such a striking shot. And the pitch black surrounding all of that, I loved it so much. So striking. Every scene in that prison old house area was just fantastic. I mean, there's the infamous hammer scene. I literally have it written here as Hugh and the Hammer. I loved the acting in that scene. That such a powerful performance from Hugh and Paul and Terrence in that scene. I love the sink after it was broken. Later, Viola Davis's character comes in and takes the bag off of Alex's face, and the sink hides it. And I remember going, oh, thank God they're not showing me the fucked up face that Alex probably has right now. And then boom, they show it to me. And I'm like, holy fuck, he looks like a pomegranate. I loved that scene. I also love how this movie spends no time before the abduction. Like you learn about how much these characters care for their kids after the abduction happens. Like it does have like 5 minutes of exposition, like obviously telling you like the relationship that these fathers and these parents have with these kids, but like it's like 5 seconds long and you get all you need to know about this. You know, it's father and their daughter, and these fathers are worried about these kids being missing, and then you find out how much these fathers, specifically Keller, would go the distance just to get these kids back. And I love that about this movie. Like that's another thing that just strengthens my point about the pacing that I was talking about earlier. Like this movie's just paced so well, man. I really love that. There's this one chase scene between Jake Gyllenhaal's character and David Dastmalchian's character, Bob Taylor, who ended up being one of the abducted kids. And there's this chase scene that happens after a candlelight vigil where he just goes sprinting after Bob. And I fucking loved how that chase scene was blocked. Like, again, talking about music, like I kind of prefer the fact that there wasn't music in this chase scene because it made it feel a lot more real. Like it didn't feel like an action movie where it's like dun, 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 dun. There was none of that bullshit. And the way it was like shot and where it took place, like it was taking place in like people's porches, like there were jumping fences of like people's backyards and stuff. It made it feel like I was watching this chase scene happen like across the street in my own neighborhood. You know what I mean? Like I walked out the door and I just saw this fucking police chase around a cul-de-sac, which made it feel, again, a lot more real and a lot more engaging. Yeah, I just love that scene between Loki and Bob. And speaking of Bob, I love David Dastmalchian in this movie. It took me a while to really understand his role in this movie. He isn't involved in the actual abduction of the kids at all, but he himself is actually a victim who is severely traumatized by the things that Holly does. I loved him, man. I had to watch like a ending explained video and a couple like video essays, which normalize watching ending explained videos is okay. If you want to watch a breakdown of an ending of a movie, if you don't understand it, like that's fine. Some people are like me are stupid and they need someone to tell them what a movie actually is about. So fucking sue me. Yeah, I loved how everything played into the main twist at the end of Holly being the abductor, and why she did it was so incredible. And then Keller, you know, imprisoning his nephew ends up being the prisoner in that hole, and then finding the red whistle as well of his daughters. Everything just plays into each other and everything connects, and it's just so satisfying to watch. I feel like I'm rambling a little bit, but those are my favorite moments of the movie. I love this movie. Denis, you're my goat. Knocked it out of the park once again. You can do anything. You can make a fucking Coco Melon video and it'll be the greatest thing I've ever seen. I'm so excited for Dune 3. I'm going to watch all of Denis' movies leading up to Dune 3 and then watch Dune 3, and then maybe I'll make like a ranking all Denis movies or something. That'll be really fun. But yeah, Prisoners, really loved it. I'm going to give it 4.5 out of 5 stars. Definitely go see it. If you've seen it, let me know what you think of the movie in the comments. If you disagree with anything I said, let me know in the comments. Yeah, Prisoners, shout out. I don't know how to end these videos. Bye.